You're about to witness a seismic event.
Fuck you, haters. You're watching Skitbags Radio.
Listening?
Oh, yeah. Listening.
Hello out there, everyone in the universe. Welcome to Skitbags Radio. Hoorah! What's up, fellas?
What's up?
How's it going? To my right, we got Neil the Great.
To cheer.
What up, Neil? And we got our special guest in the house. Yo, my name is Sailor Dev, but to my left, we have Brian Sanders.
What's up, y'all?
And the epically awesome James Wyatt Scott. What up, James?
James Wyatt Scott here, coming at you with the news.
Is that your news voice?
Is this the wrong
radio guy?
Is this the news radio?
He's actually one person. He just has 3 first names. It's okay.
Yeah, man. Look, I needed 3 names to really let you know how big I'm coming. You know what I mean?
You know, there's 2 types of people that have 3 names.
That's what she said.
Hey.
Presidents, right?
Yeah.
And serial killers.
Oh, kind of
Somewhere in between.
similar personalities, really.
I don't think James is going to be president, but...
Man, look, it just depends on which one I do first, if you ask me.
Oh.
There you
So
go.
can you imagine if
Plot
like
twist.
Let's make that movie, the serial killer president.
Well, so we start off every episode with a breakdown, yo. Neil, what are we breaking down today, brother?
What? Okay, well, it's quite simple, actually. I can't believe I haven't brought it up sooner. But it came across my attention on Halloween that, of course, the Saw movies were back, and actually, I have no idea what took them so long.
Yeah.
I have no idea what we were put in such suspense for years, actually. I think it's been like 5 or 6, I think 7 years of no Saw movies. What the fuck?
Was it really that long?
Yes, it has been that long.
That's crazy.
Yeah, come on, please. And I had haters out there when they're all coming out, and it's like, where are you now, though? Where are you now? Because guess who just came out? The new Jigsaw movie, and guess who was first in line to see it? Well, on the 4th day, actually, I was first in line in my time slot to see it, right? And I'll let you know right now, guys. Saw is incredibly underrated.
Yeah.
I think it may be possibly one of the best horror movie franchises there is. I'm going to tell you this right now. Saw would mangle and mutilate and turn it against each other in the movie franchise of Paranormal Activity. I don't even want to see another one of those joints. Give me the fuck out of that shit. I'm done with that nonsense. What the fuck are we? Fuck are we watching with that shit? I'm done. All right, I'm finished. Give me a twist. Give me something to tell my children when they grow up. All right, I'm not telling my kids about some fucking movie I saw about some handheld movie about some ghosts. I'm telling my kids about some fucking movie when this guy's fucking head got snapped open and shit, and his tongue was just licking out. If we're gonna go all in, let's go all in with these fucking horror movies, and that's what Saw does. That's what Saw brings to the table every fucking time. They never fucking disappoint.
I agree.
What the hell? Sorry, what?
Yeah.
You didn't like the character arc? You didn't like the way the guy didn't turn into the hero? Fuck him. That's not the point of Saw.
Yeah.
James.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to agree. I think, our parents and older generations had the Texas Chainsaw Massacres. They had Freddy, the monsters, the slashers, and I think Saw is our generation's, that. I really do. I think, and I don't think people realize it. I don't think people realize what a great historical franchise Saw really is.
Well, they started the production for Saw based on what they saw from Blair Witch Project.
Oh, okay.
That's 100% what the director and the producers based themselves off of. So they wanted to create something that was easy, low budget, and they could stick a bunch of people in a room in one setting and really make it suspenseful. And I think that's where the Saw franchises really set themselves apart.
Okay. Where are you reading this? I want where?
Right now, I'm on
sources.
Wikipedia, and director
and
James
says?
Wan says the inspiration they needed came after watching the low-budget independent film Blair Witch Project.
All right, because it's to my knowledge that they uploaded a version of their movie. There's a 10-minute version of Saw, which is on YouTube right now.
Really?
There's a version of Saw that these people created to submit to these movie studios that they actually accepted.
Yeah.
And then that's what made them make these movies.
I heard.
So if you look online on YouTube, there's like a 10-minute version of Saw, which is basically that first opening scene in the movie where they're all chained up in the bathroom. There's a short film of that that's on YouTube to this day. and that's what was submitted to the movie companies for them to green light.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, that's what you're talking. Maybe to make that short film, they were inspired by Blair Witch.
I heard it was some lady's dream. Apparently, that was an urban legend back in the day. I heard that like Saw was this lady's crazy dream one night, and she woke up and she was friends with James Wong. I guess I don't know. I don't know.
This is the uniqueness of Saw, the beauty, the genius behind it all. What's happening with Saw is that in a lot of these other movies that we're watching with Friday the 13th and Jason and whatnot, the people that usually die in the movies are people that we kind of didn't want to die. You know, we kind of had like a feeling for them. But we knew they were going to die because from the parts of the film that we've seen, they've done like the bad movie rule shit.
Right.
Well, you know that they gotta go. He fucked. You know what I mean? Like he's the asshole.
He's black.
He's black. He's the one who thinks he can beat the fucking villain up. You know, he's going second. He goes second. You know what I mean? Because he's the one who's thinking that he can beat the motherfucker. That he kills, someone else gets killed, and he's like, oh shit, now I'm really gonna get him. Then he gets killed. That's the guy who goes. The guy who goes first is the black guy, right? So that's how the whole formula goes. And so you kind of feel uneasy when these guys get killed. And Saw is the whole nother story. We are allowed to enjoy seeing these motherfuckers get torn to shit because they back it up with the fact that these guys are in there for some sinister reason.
Rapists.
You know what I mean? Everyone is in the game is always in there for some shit.
Yeah.
It's never that they're in there. Oh my God, we gotta get out. No, Saw. In matter of fact, in all the fucking movies, Jigsaw is actually the one who's like actually the hero. He's the one trying to cleanse these guys of all their fucking like horrible things that they did. And in this last fucking movie, Jesus Christ, like the characters that they like, the backstories of these characters, you're like, I don't even know if I'm supposed to get into this.
I mean, just with no spoilers.
Yeah,
I guess. But I guess plot synopsis. That's cool.
No, but what I'm just trying to bring to the plot point is that like it brings it like I guess in the other movies they've done this, but in this one what they did was they brought it that we knew that what they did was kind of bad. These guys that are in the but when they took to the final two who are in, we get the full story about these guys, and we realize these people are fucking horrible. Like we actually don't really care if they win or die. You know,
Right.
And they made it. They've done it that way so that when you're watching it, you kind of don't really give a shit if they live or die. You know, and the movie does it in the way that they have another plot going on at the same time, where like you don't really care if they live or die because there's another story that's kind of even more important that's going on.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about their movies. They have multiple layers to their films, like in Jason movies and stuff. Like it's just straightforward. Once Jason dies for that moment, it's over. But no, this motherfucker, Jigsaw, no, he's got 10 shit going on at the same time after he's dead. You know what I mean? Like, come on, it's not fucking over. And there's always a twist. I swear to God, this is the only movie I ever liked. At the end, there's gonna give you like that little recap. They give you like that little like dun 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 dun, and they go back to the scenes and the voiceovers like, I told you not to do that shit. And you're like, oh my fucking God. You know what I mean? It's like, how did I miss this?
Yeah.
And
I know it was there the whole time.
I know, it's like, Jesus Christ, there's fucking one movie where the kid is fucking in the room the entire
Yeah, the whole
time.
time.
The entire time, the kid that they're looking for.
Is it okay if I spoil the very first one since it's been out for so long?
Oh, yeah. We can spoil these up.
The fact that he's just alive, he was just alive in the middle of the room or whatever, like the whole, like
exactly.
That shit is nuts.
And then the first lines that the dude says to him, it was like, yo, you chill with me right here the
We're
entire
good.
time, your boy will be safe.
Yeah.
And it literally is in the safe in the room. But no, he loses his shit. There's another fucking Saw ending that this one blew my fucking mind, that when it got to the end of one of them, he met the person from the end of the other one.
Oh,
and then you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then you realize that this movie was taking place at the same time as the other one.
Yep.
You're like, what the
He's
fuck?
He's like a H.H. Holmes, kind of.
Yeah.
H.H. Holmes had like a hotel where hundreds of people were being
exactly.
killed and tortured and shit. I guess that's my presidential serial killer side coming out of it. But I did want to talk about, like, Neil, what you said about Saw, where it was so much different, where he was picking people up who had done despicable things. And I always thought about, it always came across more to me as like he wasn't so much trying to torture and kill as he was trying to challenge them. Like, if you are as nasty as you say you are and you do these things, like,
then
how do you get through this?
And this is actually your payment for
Yeah,
it.
like, this
if you
is-
want to continue
yeah.
with it. And he makes it so that, like I say, he doesn't really kill anyone. you're the one that actually kills yourself because of all like the fucking shits they do. And a ton of the things that they end up having you do are things that, like, if you would listen to the instructions from the beginning, you don't get fucked up at all. Like at the end, there's a good. I don't want to ruin it for you, but that's what I liked about the Saw movies, and what I continue to like about them is that when I see it, I know I'm gonna see three things. I'm gonna see some motherfuckers get their shit fucked up like I ain't never fucking seen before. Okay, I'm gonna see that shit. I'm gonna see a fucking twist. I'm gonna see like a surprise ending, and I'm gonna get like that cliffhanger ending where like we don't know like what's happening next. You know what I mean? Rather than like the whole book being shut. And we should be getting this shit every fucking year. They should be making this shit 3 times, 3 at the same fucking time. Yeah. Okay, I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
Assassin's Creed style.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I don't care who they can put in this shit. Man, we can be in the next one. Like,
Let's
do it. Like, who gives a shit? Like, they really care if we're really gonna fucking make this real? No, just get us fucked up. Everyone likes it.
Yeah, speaking of guys,
I want to play a game.
this is what this whole show was all about. I just got you guys in here. It's a trap.
Yes.
Hold on. Brian wanted to interject.
Oh yeah, I was gonna try to bring some negativity to this. You guys are.
All right, come on.
All right, here we go.
Let's hear it. Let's
See,
hear
well, part of what you just said is why they keep doing it. That's my problem with it. I saw the first one. I was like, this is original. This is great. I love it. And then I never went back. I was like, this is the same thing. All I'm seeing is I thought it was just gonna be the same thing over and over again, and I never saw another movie. So maybe now you're changing my mind a little bit because maybe I should check them out.
There's a whole story.
But I think that's why it gets a bad rap. You're saying, oh, it's underrated, whatever. So for me, that's what it is. I just didn't even want to check them out.
Right.
And they do a whole lot of really good like classic film play, like playing with like editing and shit like that. Like very like have you seen Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah.
Well, like when you're in film school, they let you study that last part of the ending when they go to the house and you're thinking that they're all going to the same fucking place, but they're not, you know?
Right.
And Saw is filled with shit like that. You know, there's one ending where they're going to the fucking house that they think that they found where the fucking game is being played. It's fucking on. They're about to fucking bust the shit out, but when they open the doors, everything's all dark and shit. They're like, what the fuck? And they find out that what they've been watching has been a videotape. You know what I mean? Like, so what we've been seeing is like has happened.
It's
like,
so good.
So they cut it. It's like what the fuck? And this is it. And they incorporate this into a horror movie. It's like,
and that's what I love about it is like he got me. Like Jigsaw got me at the end. You know, like I'm fucked up now. You know, like he fooled me, man. Like, Jigsaw touched me too. All right.
Tobin Bell is the actor's name.
Tobin Bell. He did a Kevin and Bean interview the other day. He was on Kevin and Bean, and dude, he is 24/7 Jigsaw. He was like, "Hello, Kevin and Bean. This coffee you gave me is very good. Thank you." That's great.
Well, Saw, like other great franchises, pull from the best and give homages. And one of the strong comparisons, where it wasn't a copy, they did their own unique twist on it. But if you look at the movie Seven, that is a big theme from the character aspect, where the lead, Kevin Spacey's character wants to punish his victims for their actions of gluttony and.
Can we please have a moment of silence for Kevin Spacey's career?
Hey, rest in peace, man. Rest in peace, K-Space. Yeah. Shout out.
Well, maybe don't fuck people when they don't want to be fucked.
Right, that's good enough. Okay, you can go on.
Or especially when they're 14. Anyway, let's keep it.
Look, the point about the films is that David Fincher,
Seven's great,
created this original. Well, he pulled it from the book, but he added this spin and created these characters, which now Saw has become an homage to all these different aspects. Most times in the 80s, like we were talking about the scares, they're jump scares. And there'll be like horror movies like Halloween, which is great, Freddy, Jason, all those
just
things.
In your face.
Right. Yeah. And they're, oh my God, suspense, quiet. Oh, knife, whatever.
Right.
But Jigsaw, like you said, he allows you to do that to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the flip of the coin.
Do that
and that's
to yourself. I like that.
Well, think about it. Like, what's more scary, somebody attacking you or you having to cut off your own arm?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, like, instead of them having like the jump scares, their scares are like the mousetrap scares. Like they do this and it's like you know what I mean? It's like they fucked up. Like, oh shit. When they're trying to do something like carefully and then they fuck it up, and then like that's like the scare. You know what I mean? Like, because you see like, oh, like the knife getting like impaled on him more now because they're fucking up. You know, and like like you said, like
One of my least favorite things in the world is degloving in movies where people's hand skin comes off. And that part where the person put their hand through
in the box. Oh, that was the worst one.
Oh my god! And then
like, blades.
Realized, and they were so tired and hungry and shit that I think it was a he, right? It was a dude.
No, it was a girl.
It was a girl. She put her hand in there and she didn't realize what it was, so she started coming back down, and it all just.
And then she put her other hand in there too. She put her other hand to help the other one hand out, and I was like, oh shit,
so bad.
And
So bad.
another thing, like this sounds off the wall as well, but as crazy as it sounds, all this shit feels like it can really happen.
Yeah.
Like it seems
Yeah.
real as shit.
It does really happen.
It feels like the people who are bad, like the bad shit that the contestants do sound like actual bad shit that could actually happen to someone, you know, that someone has maybe hidden their past and shit. At the same time, like the traps, like it's not like there's some magical laser coming to fucking like turn you into a chicken. You know, this is like this is like some.
Although I would love to see that movie. Please,
it's like some legitimate torture shit.
It makes them relatable. Like that's what I think one of the most unique things about Saw is as an audience member, you can put yourself in the position of the characters. And versus like one of my other favorite great horror movies is Cabin in the Woods. And Cabin in the Woods is hilarious. It's visually awesome. The characters, the story's great, but it's not really realistic in its premise. You know, there's monsters in the end of the world, and so which makes it almost like a comic book, like a graphic novel as a movie itself. But Saw is a movie when I watch it, and I'm like, oh shit, what's stopping me from? I've messed up in my life. What's stopping?
I'm gonna wake
somebody
up
from just doing this to me. Yeah.
Every horror movie, like everyone, when it comes down to like killing the monster, the beast, they always try to take it like into their own hands and whatnot. Like these good people like don't believe. No, not in Saw. In every Saw movie, there's a fucking police investigation. Like there's always the cops are completely involved.
Yeah,
like, it's very realistic. It's like, you know, like the cops are on this. It's not like, oh, well, no one believes. Oh, this is just a joke. No, the cops are in. Like, okay, this is fucked up. Well, let's find these guys.
Yeah, there's no,
and they're getting killed. You know what I mean? Like, so,
and there's no superhero that's gonna come save you. Like it's gonna be actual. Like if this shit were to actually go down, this is how it would really. This is how your ass is gonna be saved. Is that fucking 55-year-old cigarette smoking detective who's like on his 80th cold case? You know,
exactly. That's exactly how it's gonna go down. Like in the movie The Ring, I'm not too sure there's too much police involvement in like trying to save a girl coming out of a television. You know, everyone is like kind of on their own in that one, but in the Saw, that even makes it more horrifying. It's like not even the cops are gonna help me in this shit.
Yeah, that's true, man.
You know,
and you saw what happened when they finally thought that they saved him. They didn't. They didn't.
Now they're in a trap. It's like fuck.
Very grounded in reality, and I think that's one of the most horrific things about Saw, and that's why I think the appeal is so great.
Well, speaking of grounded in reality, you mentioned David Fincher. Have you guys seen Mindhunters on Netflix?
No.
I need to start that.
My gosh.
I've heard amazing things.
Shout out to my friend Holt McCallany. We have the same manager. He's a fucking awesome dude, and he's doing the show. It's Mindhunters, and I had no idea. I thought that they were doing the Saving Private Ryan vehicle where they were going to do two fictional characters who investigate real life. No. This shit all really happened. These two detectives and a professor from Harvard back in the 70s when serial killers were just rampant. Like the nation was full of serial killers at that time. And they started to realize that one of the problems is there were these two guys who did road classes for cops. And they went around and they would teach about criminal psychology. That was their whole thing. And they started to realize, like, we have to treat these serial killers different because sometimes there's no motive. Sometimes these guys just kill because they're horny and they like killing, you know, and we have to teach police officers about this. So it's this whole show directed by David Fincher, and it was the real life interviews with some of the biggest serial killers ever, like Charles Manson. Those interviews, those were those guys. Edmund Kemper, the 6'9" fucking monster who was a serial killer. Those were real interviews that they did. They would go and talk to these dudes, and like sometimes like it got bad. Like these dudes would be like, "I'm gonna come murder you in your sleep and shit," you know, and blah blah blah.
Jesus.
One dude jerked off into a shoe during the interviews. Like they were real, but they were necessary. Like it was a necessary evil, you know. Check it out, man. It's really good.
Netflix is on point, by the way, and so is David Fincher. Yeah. So we kind of shed a little light on this in the last week when we were talking, but now that we're all caught up or mostly caught up, and I was talking with Neil again, I think it's due in respect to bring up Stranger Things.
Oh yeah.
And the homage to all the 80s, not only just 80s horror, but 80s movies in general.
Yes.
And I said it, before, and I'll say it again. I legitimately think Stranger Things is the best TV show to come out on any network in the past 5 years.
All right, relax. I'll say top 5. I'm not gonna give it the crown, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what?
Yeah.
So why? What do you have against it? Like,
I don't have nothing against it, but I'm just trying to put on my thinking hat, and I can see a couple more shows.
Yeah.
That I put a top of.
Was
It's
Breaking Bad more
there.
than 5 years ago?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, like, in the past 5 years, like, I'm not saying all time, granted, Westworld's amazing. Westworld came out in the past 5 years. That's right up there as a contender. But all the other great shows have had longer runs than 5 years. Game of Thrones, if you want to go back and do Sopranos, you want to do Breaking Bad,
Well, as far as
Walking
popularity,
Dead.
Yeah. I'm
All of those have longer runs. I'm just saying in the more recent time, I think that's the best new show. And mind you, it's on its second season, too.
Yeah.
It's a baby. It's got a long way to go.
And it's got a huge following. The Nielsen people were trying, Netflix is notoriously really secret about their views. They don't let people know.
No, not even the people on the show.
Right, not even the people on the show. No one knows their.
Well, what is this?
Yeah, Netflix. If you do a show with Netflix, because they're private, privately owned, blah, 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 they can do whatever they want. Even if you have a show on Netflix, they don't have to tell you how many people are watching. They that is
show's
all
creators
information that is the show. Yeah,
Correct. Like the Duffer Brothers who created Stranger Things do not know the analytics behind the show. So like if I'm a stand-up comedian and I do a stand-up special for Netflix,
So they have no idea.
they won't tell me how many people watched it, when they watched it, the demographics, all that information is kept in-house from Netflix.
Yeah.
So it's actually very smart from a production standpoint because then they have the power of negotiation. But
Exactly.
because of that, they also are able to spend a lot of money too. Because the thing about Netflix versus a normal network is they are subscription based. So like HBO or any other subscription based network, they don't have to adhere to advertisers. So they're focused on quality of content of their brand. Like when you say, oh, I saw this show on HBO, a standard of like, it's going to be this quality. Or I saw a show on Netflix, it's going to be this quality. Whereas like, you're like, oh, I saw a show on, this cable network, it could be hit or miss, you don't know. And a lot of the times the producers and showrunners have to answer to the network and the advertisers. Hence why Dave Chappelle's show kind of failed is 100% because the advertisers didn't want him dropping the N-bomb that much on the show. They said it's bad for our brands when we're advertising. Even though the success of the show is amazing, they came in and they tried to micromanage and he was just like, fuck you guys,
And
and
Netflix gets
peaced
around
out.
shit like that.
Right, exactly. Which I think is an advantage
I do
because
too.
it doesn't sacrifice the quality of the content.
What were you
That's
saying,
my
Ian?
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you want just now what you were saying about, it's like a brand, it's a standard when you say like HBO and whatnot. If you ask me, I don't feel that way with Netflix. When I see a program has a Netflix stamp on it, doesn't make me think that it's automatically good. Actually, if you ask me, like I think a lot of their shows suck.
Yeah.
Just to be
The
honest.
originals, the Netflix originals.
Like I'm
shows.
trying to think of I'm trying to think like
House of
Narcos.
Cards.
Like Narcos is good. I've watched Stranger Things is good. I guess Orange is the New Black. But those 3 shows, these motherfuckers are putting out like 20 shows a week, 20 new shows a week.
Well, they take creative chances.
You know what I mean? So at the same time, maybe the fact that they're not giving out these views is also to maybe save a little bit of their tail too. Because like some of these shows look absolutely horrible. I look on their IMDb reviews and it's like, oh, what the fuck is this?
I agree.
so
There's
like-
some that fail. There's some that
Oh,
really
for
fail
sure.
big time. Like I was not a fan of Disjointed, even though I really wanted to be.
Right.
And Kathy Bates, the comedy about the marijuana dispensary that Kathy Bates runs. It's a sitcom comedy that has a laugh track. And when you're watching on Netflix, you're like, why am I watching a show that has a laugh track? I know you guys
Yeah.
didn't do this in front of a live studio audience. So it's almost cheesy.
Yeah.
But something like Ozark with Jason Bateman, really, really good. really good quality drama. I mean, for me, it got a little slow in the middle of the season, but at the end of the day, if you compare it to the rest of the quality of material out there, whether it's network or non-network, that's up there, and that makes a rating. So
to me, the best shows are on like Showtime and HBO, and then AMC and FX gets in there too. Like I don't even like. To be honest with you, I don't really much watch the standard Fox unless it's like for sports. And whatnot. But
the Mick is good. There's a couple. There's a here and there. Like, Family Guy got its start on Fox.
No. Actually, I will go back to that for that shit. Don't get me wrong with that. But what I was going to come back to Netflix is that you ever watch a TV show? All right, you're watching it for an hour, right? You know the world of that episode. You know as far as they're going to be going in this episode. Okay, right? Right. If some character on the show got a ticket and they're gonna fucking go to Dubai next week, the way you're watching the episode, you're not gonna see that part of the show going to Dubai. You know what I mean?
That's true.
They're in this world of an episode, right? That's how I think the Netflix seasons are when you watch them on streaming. When they release a season, it's so clear to me that they shot all these episodes in a row. It feels as though like I'm watching a really, really, really long episode, so like I can see as far as this can go. As far as this can go, you know what I mean? Like everything, like the same scenes are coming up over and over again. You know what I mean? It's just like a really long television show.
I see what you mean. You get like on Mindhunters, actually, that's really interesting because I knew they weren't going to do Charles Manson this season, like just because the way the pace and the way it was set up, and like they're not going to get to it. But like at the end of the season, they were like, you heard of Charles Manson, and it's like that next season they're gonna do it. So yeah, I see what you mean. It was like the whole season was an episode.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a whole lot of their shows do that. Stranger Things, from what I've seen, have not done that. Narcos, they haven't done that. But the majority of these other shows, they have done that, and that's what kind of like detracts me from them. It's so clear to me that I'm watching a show that's been given to me in a full season. Like it makes me look as if there's no way on earth if they would put this on ABC that the episode would end like this. You get what I'm saying? Like,
because then they would have reviews and reactions from their current audience because they're still writing as the season is going, and they're still in production as they're going. Whereas you're right, this gives the ability from, the direction and the production standpoint to just create the story and then dump it and say, here it is.
Better though.
Another thing is like vice principals.
And another thing is also like this. Whenever I watch a show, sometimes I watch like a new episode of a program that I like, Game of Thrones. I love Better Call Saul. I think that's another great show that's been released recently, right? Yeah. And I like to do sometimes. I like to look online, some fan theories, what people thought about the show. Shows on Netflix, I can't really do that because I realize that everyone has seen it the entire season already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I can't really look up a theory and see what's going on because this theory has obviously been solved.
Yeah.
But okay, I think it's a good thing that they get to do it all at once because then it's not affected by the audience. Like these shows that come out each week, then it's like they can gauge the crowd and then change it, and it's all like, oh, what do people think? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get your whole creative thing out at once, and you do it without all this fan input, and you're not
right. But it's funny. I think it's interesting what Neil is saying. I think what you're saying basically is like when we were just all watching TV in the 90s, no one had the spoiler for the next episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's like no one fucking knew where this was gonna go, and so maybe it did kind of hold up the conversation. The whole water cooler talk about the episode or whatever last night is no more. It's a whole...
like just now, like before the show, me and Brian, we've seen the show, but he's on it before further than I am. So now
I'm on a different episode.
So now we can't talk
about it.
I want to say something.
And the thing about it is, like, when we talk about it, we can't even talk about a particular episode like I just wanted to just now. It's got to be like about the entire shit in its entirety. Matter of fact, by the time I watch the whole shit in its entirety, there'll be nothing to talk about this shit I just wanted to talk about because I've already seen it. It's like,
well, there's a couple points.
So those are just the downfalls about watching the shows. But at the same time, when the shows are as good as Stranger Things, as Narcos, it's great to just be able to just go through them for sure.
So good,
but at the same time, I can just see this getting, for some reason, a show like this gets so much fanfare for me, even more than it already is. This show is dropping every week. Like, I don't understand why doesn't Netflix just incorporate that? They've already set the standard. They can't go back now. but they just incorporated what you said. Like, they've already did the whole season. You know what I mean? They're not taking any more fan input and whatnot. But then they still just drop the episodes every Monday and whatnot. I don't know.
They could try it. I think they should do it as a sample. It's like Netflix is a tech company, and tech companies like do tests
always
and,
change.
and yeah,
Right.
they just say, hey, let's try this and see how it works.
This one of the recent episodes just ended. I was like, fuck, this is like a fucking jaw drop. I can imagine. I couldn't take waiting a week for the next episode to go on. You know what I mean? Like,
that makes it better.
It was so hype, but it's like you want that anticipation sometimes.
No, not for me.
I'm kind of right there with Dev on this. I don't. Go ahead.
Well, all right. So the unique thing that Stranger Things did for me as a TV show that no other TV show has ever done is my addicted to the binge watching. I don't binge watch ever. Even when I start another series that I see on Netflix, I'll watch an episode here or two there. When the first season came out, I remember the day it came out, or I'm sorry, not the day it came out, but I watched it maybe like a month later. But as soon as I started watching it, I couldn't put it down. And when this new season came out, I remember it was like midnight it dropped, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch like an episode or two and stay up till 2 a.m. and then just turn it off and pass out. But at 2 a.m, my mind is racing and I can't put it down. And I did not go to sleep until I finished the season. And that still made it just as enjoyable. It was like an extra long movie that now I can go back and watch it again. And that's what I did like 2 weeks ago. And I still found just as much enjoyment. This is when I wrote the synopsis, trying to break it down of like things that made a mental note to me. And one of the things we can talk about here is the first 2 episodes, because everyone's seen those, right?
Yeah.
All right. So in those first 2 episodes, I think are probably the most significant in setting up the series, even though they're maybe a little bit slow paced, obviously, but they have the most homage to 80s callbacks.
Right.
So
yeah.
I made a list of all the 80s callbacks for the whole series. And then in episode 2, there is the house party that they all go to. And then you have a bunch of different throwbacks from just people's costumes. So first I'm going to go through the list of shots. Like in, the first episode when Will is going out of the arcade to the door, and that door is opening and there's the light and everything behind that. That is shot for shot a callback to Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. 100%. And they admit that. Duffer Brothers say that. So just on this list, we have Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Ghostbusters, Goonies, St. Elmo's Fire, Mad Max, Gremlins, Scarface, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Mist, The Exorcist, The Warriors, Halloween, and Poltergeist. And that's just from frame ups. That's not even direct references, where like Ghostbusters is a clear reference because the boys are dressed in those costumes for Halloween. So I think, from the Halloween party, you have Madonna acting like, like a virgin is playing and on the radio. And Alex Owens from Flashdance is in there. Rocky from Rocky is in there. And these are costumes that all the kids at the party are dressed like. So that is one of the appeals of the show, is it's not only like, it's cross-generational. Sure. And I think it's something that like our generations and ones that came before love it because it has that 80s feel with this whole new modern flair on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But at the same time, the young kids love it because it's something original. And it is something that's like, oh, wait, what is this? And, we talked about this a little bit before, but I'm going to go into the production difference between season 1 and season 2. Obviously, season 1, they, think about what they had. They didn't have very little CGI. They wrote to frame. They wrote to framework. They had these constraints. Okay, we have this town, we have the set, we have this budget.
Right.
We're going to use a physical puppet for the monster instead of like a CGI. Whereas in season 2, you come right off the bat and it is way bigger scale. It's the whole town. And I was listening to the Duffer Brothers talk about this, and they said for season 1 they had one intern that was there part-time, not an intern, but one employee that was there part-time to do all the CGI post-production stuff. On season 2, they had 5 people there full-time.
Nice.
So that just tells you like, okay, once the success of the show happened, Netflix was like, here's a bag of money.
There's a whole lot of money.
Go do whatever you have to do to make it awesome.
Yeah.
So I think it's the combination. It's like serendipitous when the moments fall into place of good storytellers and good actors and actresses on this, because I really do believe, you said, maybe not the acting's that great. I think really the vision for this show comes from the Duffer Brothers, first and foremost, which are amazing, great, brilliant, but also the actors communicating that vision. I've been in this business a long time, and I started in theater, in musical theater, and the kids who are in this cast are some of the best child actors I've ever seen in my life.
I'm kind of worried about them. I'm kind of worried about them.
They might be getting a little ahead of themselves, but Caleb McLaughlin, who plays Lucas, he's been on Broadway before. So some of these kids, like, so is Gayton, so who plays Dusty.
But dude, can you imagine being one of these kids and going back to school and being like, "Yo, what up, bitches?" Like,
They don't go. They haven't been in that
dude has
life.
4 million followers. That's
Well, that one kid just did it. Like that kid's not going to school.
Well, I haven't seen the new It. Well,
The new It's amazing.
good.
Who's
It's
in
better than the first one.
which
It's
one?
amazing.
Which one from
What's his
Stranger
name?
Things is in it?
Mike.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
Who's Mike?
One of the main kids.
The one who likes 11.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in it.
Yeah,
No,
he's in it.
But one of the veteran actors of this show, well, two of them, Winona Ryder and David Harbour.
Which another, Winona Ryder in itself an 80s callback. You know
So
what I
is
mean? It's
Sean
like-
Astin.
Yeah, like Sean
Astin from The Goonies right there brought it straight back in. And he talks about, I listened to an interview with Sean Astin about talking about bringing that Goonies aspect to Bob when he drops down in tunnels. But anyways, David Harbour, I think, is so perfect for this part because he is a trained theater actor and a television actor. Like he's been around the block for years, and he brings this this Hopper cop aspect that is like the leader of the show. So I think that dynamic plays on set, like on camera, as well as it does off. And I think it translates, and that's why I think that chemistry of those people working together makes it so unique. I don't know if the show would succeed without some of these actors. Is my point.
Yeah. He's gonna be the new Hellboy, by the way.
Yeah, he is. I saw a picture.
The guy who plays the
Hopper.
Hopper on Stranger Things.
Oh, really?
He's a dude. He's perfect. New Hellboy.
that's pretty good.
And they showed his makeup and everything with the final, like what they decided on. It's sick, man. He looks awesome now. Hellboy's gonna have like a whole new, darker. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Well, I was wondering, did you guys ever pick up on that one scene? I think it's in episode 2, where that fucking the brother of that Max girl. He's doing like the cake stand, and that's like an entire one shot of him like doing the cake stand. And they follow him, and he goes into the house, and everyone's like partying. Then he goes there, he's like pulling like toilet paper off the fucking roof. Then he goes down, and then everyone goes over to the other kid, Harrington, I guess his last name. And I thought you were the king around here, and then he just stares down Harrington. Harrington's all like. And then the camera still goes, that entire scene is all in one shot, and the girl gets the drinks. That's how she wants to drink, and this aren't we supposed to be stupid teenagers? That whole scene is all like in one shot.
That's Duffer Brothers, man.
That's a pretty cool look.
Fox lost Duffer Brothers. The Duffer Brothers were doing Wayward Pines, and Fox put them in like here's your like bullshit spot on Fox. Let's see how this show does, and then didn't really, just kind of left it on the branch to die off. And the Duffer Brothers got the Stranger Things deal with Netflix in the middle of doing Wayward Pines. And so Fox came back and they were like, well, we actually really like Wayward Pines. We would like to put you in a new spot. And the Duffer Brothers were like, sorry, dude, like we're out. Like we got a Netflix thing. We're going to go do this Stranger Thing. Now they're huge.
Well, and as they should be, man. They deserve it because I think they did some work on Lost. Is how they got their start.
Right.
Who, Duffer Brothers?
Yeah, they started mentoring under J.J. Abrams. That's where they got a lot of
Which
their
makes so much sense
wisdom.
if you think about their style.
Right. I mean, with the exception, there's no lens flares and Stranger Things. Thank God.
But it's kind of like I was talking to Neil earlier about like there are these a bunch of shows and programs that are coming out. Like I mentioned, South Park, the new South Park that just came out, and then Stranger Things and It, and these things that are coming out where I think it's speaking to us as how we used to be as kids. You know what I mean? It's these kids who are going out, the latchkey kids that we used to be, who go outside and go fucking play in the woods and go get lost in a cave and go destroy your school. And it's like that's how we were as kids. I can't really speak for nowadays kids. I don't know what's going on out there, but I mean,
too many iPhones.
That's what I think is different. I do think it's different. Yeah, they're inside
playing video games.
That's what I think so too.
I know some.
Yeah. And so I think this is for our generation. I was born in '88. But like Stranger Things, I can just see how perfectly 80s they got this thing. It's so on the money of what it was like to be a kid in the 80s.
Can I be the official shade thrower again?
Yeah, throw that
Okay.
shade. Throw that shade.
That's my role here.
Please.
So I liked it. I really liked it, and I agree. It's very good. One of the best in 5 years. But I took me 2 weeks to watch it. I watched other things in between.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why it didn't. And then another thing, it's not really a spoiler, but should I?
No, don't. Stop.
Okay, I
Stop.
don't want to say anything, but there's this one thing. I'm just like, what is? Like, this doesn't mean anything. The map, and it's like exactly in the house.
Well,
Like,
that's
why
kind
is this?
of like
Why is this house an exact replica of the town? And why is this map like do this?
don't know
like,
anything
that
about
doesn't
that
make any
yet.
sense to me.
well, they wanted to just
Stop.
they wanted to
Yeah.
mess up the house the same way they did in season
I
one
get-
with
yeah.
the lights.
Yeah, okay.
That's kind of, I think, the callback to the previous season. They found something that worked in Winona's
I'm gonna
house
watch
with the
it tonight.
characters,
I'm gonna finish it.
and I think that's
it's not,
kind
it's
of
not
where
a
they
spoiler.
were.
It just happens.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
then in the whole season, I don't know how to say this without being a spoiler.
Oh, stop
No,
it,
no, no, no.
please.
Just in general, I'm like this. It's like the same arc and the same like as season one. I'm like, they didn't. It's the same thing.
That's
Yeah,
okay,
it
though.
is,
It
and
is.
Exactly
it
the
takes
same.
place
I like
over
that.
what 2 or 3 days, like the same as the first season.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Ghostbusters.
But you don't step
where
it
there
up
was-
and not like every other show. It gets it to the next level, or you they don't push any boundaries. They don't
Well, the
get
scale
creative.
is bigger.
The scale, it's a lot nicer. The production value, a lot of everything's better, but it's the same story arc.
I like that.
And it ends
Honestly,
with-
I do.
yeah.
I also like movies that have sequels that are like copy and paste the first script and just put in some like Airplane. Airplane 2 is just Airplane without Leslie Nielsen and some like other, I don't know. You know what I mean? I dig it. But I see where you're coming from on that. Maybe they probably could come up with some new, maybe I don't know, Stranger Thing goes to Tokyo or something.
Well,
Speaking on like sequels, this is a random comment, and I'll like to copyright this as well. Is this copyright?
Copyright.
Right.
Copy.
I don't know what the fuck Hangover fucked up with all the sequels at, right? I don't know because they did that copy and paste shit too, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like
did
that
not
either.
like it,
Okay.
right?
I agree.
Okay.
But I don't know why they never did this, but they should have did one of their like sequels like Memento. It should have been like a comedy version of Memento.
Oh shit, that would have been.
That's how
good.
it should have been, like, because that's how they started anyway. They always
Right.
started with it being at the end, then we start in the middle. No, the movie just should have started at the end and scene by scene
That's a
being
good
the
idea.
end. Then us to figure out, because that way we're the ones that are kind of drunk. You know what I mean? We're the ones that can't remember anything.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like so.
So I want to close us out on this before we get into our guest segment here. But here's a fun fact that I found out this past week about another beloved AZ's movie, Beetlejuice. Right?
Yeah.
So Beetlejuice got approved for a sequel, and it was literally, I'm not joking, Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii.
Oh my god!
It
I
was-
wish that had happened. Can we make
What?
that happen?
Yeah, it was
Kickstarter
so.
right
What
now.
happened was Michael Keaton got cast in Batman, so he couldn't do it because of the timing for the filming. But the
Just busy
premise
doing Batman.
was
Just so happened.
the premise was that the people who came in to own the house originally that Beetlejuice was trying to scare out, they bought a luxury hotel on Hawaii that was on sacred Hawaiian ground that was haunted, and then they contact Beetlejuice to come and just save the town, but instead he creates a tidal wave that destroys the entire island and washes away the spirits and everything. And that was a legit script that got approved and it got
Oh yeah,
financing
dude. You
for
better
that.
believe it, dude.
Oh
I
man,
approve
Beetlejuice
of it.
goes to Hawaii.
Bruh.
Right?
I want Beetlejuice Christmas. You know, I want Beetlejuice Valentine's Day.
All right. Well,
Beetlejuice on Valentine's Day.
so thank you guys for that breakdown. I think that was an awesome segment, man.
Yes.
We got into it deep on a lot of 80s stuff, a lot of horror stuff.
I like Brian shade throwing.
Yeah.
We need Brian shade throwing corner.
Well, speaking of Brian and his shade throw, and that's one of the reasons we brought this man on right now. So, Brian, go ahead and tell everybody out there who you are, what you're doing. What's the new project you're working on?
Well, I'm making a documentary, and I guess who I am. Speaking of Hawaii, I'm from Hawaii, born and
There you go.
raised.
Oh,
About to
where
go
Beetlejuice
home
is
in a
from.
month. Yeah, I mainly I have a tech company. I'm trying to talk about two things. So I got a podcast company. We're building a podcast product for iOS, Android, and the web. It's gonna have extra features. You're gonna see all the things people are talking about in the app. So they talk about a video, they talk about a movie. You can click on that YouTube video right there. You can see all this information, comment threads, all kinds of extra features. No one cares about podcasts. Apple makes no money off it. They lose money. They're the biggest players in the game, and they're kind of dropping the ball. So we're gonna try to take over the podcast world. So I have a team of 4. We have a podcast about ourselves making this podcast called Building Nextcast.
Wow, talk about slipping down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I have a podcast about me making a podcast. What's the name of your company?
Nextcast.
There you go.
NEX cast. So yeah, we're gonna try to have a season 2 of our podcast started up again. But yeah, making a documentary about nutrition, and
This is your
basically-
second project, right?
Yeah, because I'm kind of waiting for us to finish development, so I have some time here. And basically, I saw What the Health. Speaking of Netflix, What the Health is a joke.
What the hell?
What the hell?
What the Health is like the worst movie I've ever seen.
Charlatans, lies.
So
Shit,
bad.
Shots fired.
This whole
heard Kevin
ride
Spacey
over
made
here
it.
to Dash, I was
Kevin
listening to
Spacey produced it.
No.
I was listening to a podcast about
No wonder it sucks.
there's a vegan lady who tore apart What the Health. Like, it's supposed to be for vegans, and she's saying, hey, this makes us look bad. This is the worst science. You're lying. This is not true at all. Like, why are you making this film?
What are some of the things he said? Do you remember?
He says eating an egg is like smoking 4 cigarettes.
What?
The egg is the perfect food.
Yeah.
Like, if you ask a nutritionist, it's the perfect combination of protein, and it's the perfect everything.
Like
They
a
say
raw
that
egg with the like the liquid yolk, or it can be hard boiled.
any egg, just
Scrambled
any
egg.
Yeah.
Hard boiled,
Yeah, just any
scrambled.
egg. They're trying to. It's so bogus. They're saying that meat causes cancer.
I love eggs.
So many
I can eat-
people,
I can eat
yeah,
eggs.
so many
eggs before
people
I come
have
in.
bad information in America about nutrition, and I'm not the expert. I've studied it for the past couple of years and very intently for the last 3 months. But there's so much wrong with what people think is nutritious in America, and it's the government's fault for promoting the food pyramid. It's bad science that we all believe. I mean, there's the famous, you can talk about the sugar scandal, 1960s. There's sugar industry paid off scientists to make it seem like fat was causing heart disease and all these problems when it's actually sugar.
Motherfuckers.
That's some reefer madness for meat,
Dude,
right
but
there.
this is legit.
Shit.
That's the same scientists
Yeah.
that were proven to be experts in the sugar industry as the same people that Big Tobacco hired.
Oh shit!
Right?
It's chills.
But
Yeah.
low
They're just
key,
paid
like
for
the
scientists.
5-year-old version of me was probably like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man, sugar. You tell them, yeah, man, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of this stuff. So Gary Taubes wrote 3 books on this. He comes on the Joe Rogan podcast a lot. A lot of this I got started just by listening to Joe Rogan. I know Devin did as well. These famous people like Rob Wolf and Mark Sisson. All these people, actually, I'm getting them on the documentary. So I already have 8 people lined up.
That's awesome.
The top names in the fields, 3 New York Times bestsellers. I got, like celebrity trainer, this guy Vinny Tortorich that comes on Adam Kroll's podcast a lot, who wrote a book, and he's awesome. He might work with me to make it, actually.
That's really good. I'm really glad you're doing it because, yeah, the way that America and the UK, I feel, the way that we see food is so fucked up. Like, there's the whole thing about, I don't know, I always say coffee is bad for you one week, good for you the next week,
Oh, yeah.
bad for you the next,
What is it,
You can
Brian?
make,
What is
well,
it?
actually, I was
What is-
reading an article about that this morning, and it's you can do a lot with statistics and studies and make it say whatever you want, kind of. And with
where are they
coffee-
being done? And
Yeah, I mean, coffee is just coffee. Like, it's the most widely used drug in the world, caffeine.
is just
Yeah, and I don't think
Hold on, but
if you have,
what is coffee?
it's a bean. But if you drink 10 cups, it's probably bad. But there's studies. There's this Harvard professor. The 2 cups is good for you. It's like he's saying 2 cups is actually beneficial for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't care about coffee. I love it, but mainly it's just carbs and sugar. Carbs is sugar to your body. So a lot of people don't understand. You could ask 100 people in America, which is better, a bowl of whole wheat pasta with vegetables or a piece of steak? And 99% will say the pasta, but really, that's just a bowl of sugar with
Yeah.
some vegetables.
Yeah, it's funny. I bartended for years, and I remember, bartending school, they teach you that alcohol just turns into sugar in your body, and that's
Yeah.
And so it was always funny when people would come in and they're like, I'm trying to watch my figure, so I'm going to do like a vodka and diet cranberries. Okay, so sugar with sugar with sugar. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Speaking of sugar, Weston A. Price is a famous dentist who figured this stuff out in, I think it was the 20s, where he went around the world and no native populations, all these hunter-gatherers or any modern tribes have cavities at all. And he was like, why do so many people have cavities? And he did all these studies and figured out that it was all these carbs and sugar that we're eating and that it's not natural. And I mean, there's tons of other studies that show that meat is good for you. Meat is what we ate for 2 million years as pre-humans and 300,000 years as modern day humans.
Man.
Yeah, it's so, okay. There's studies like the Maasai in Africa, the Inuit people, a lot of these populations eat meat only for their diet. They're just eating meat and fat, and they have no heart disease, no diabetes, no obesity. And this is how humans were meant to eat. And then they even have studies where some of these people, the Maasai, some of them went off to a different tribe that was more westernized, and they started eating a westernized diet, and immediately they had heart disease, cancer, all these problems. So
interesting.
It sounds so logical and simple to me if you just think about the world, like the way we've been only eating this way for, say, the past 100 years, or even agriculture was 10,000 years ago. But that's still, we weren't eating like all these processed foods and like highly refined sugars and stuff like that.
Well, here's another thing that I found was incredibly interesting about this is we were talking about tooth decay and cavities. Well, when you have gingivitis and you have bacteria in your gums and in your mouth, that bacteria will get into your bloodstream through the pores in your mouth. And when it gets into your bloodstream, it'll pass through your cardiovascular system and actually scrape walls inlining on your arteries. And then that wall that got damaged will build up scar tissue, and that scar tissue will collect cholesterol and then block your artery and become maybe a heart attack. So it's not even that these things are a direct cause and effect. They can be indirect causes of an effect. And, you know, like you said, we did agriculture 10,000 years ago. So why are the Egyptians have rotted teeth? And I got this from listening to Rogan, is because back then they used to bake bread, and the bread that they used to bake had sand in it. So when they would eat the bread, the sand granules would grind down their teeth. But if you look at fossil records from over 10,000 years ago, that's not the case, because they weren't growing wheat and barley and grains. They were eating, hunter-gatherer stuff and picking berries and doing things like that. So
interesting.
I think
sand was the original sugar, OG sugar.
It's not even, but it's like, it's not, this is such a complex issue to unpack that it's not that simple of, this is bad, this is good. I think it's one thing leads to another, and understanding the science behind it, which is the story I think you're trying to tell in your documentary, is really the important part, because like you said, this is complex and most Americans don't know this shit. I didn't know this shit growing up.
I'll tell you one thing though, that one guy who changed that sand into what sugar is now must have been that dude.
This sand.
Sprinkle. Let's be honest with that, but yes. Sugar.
What if we had sand but it tastes good?
Like this.
The Egyptians were just drinking too much beer to notice they were eating sand bread anyways.
Yeah, see, I grew up around,
talking about, Joseph?
I grew up around New Orleans, and my doctor told me that if I don't have red beans and rice every day, I'll die immediately.
See, doctors don't even know all that. So many doctors don't get trained on nutrition. Okay, first of all, I didn't even say what it's called. It's called Food Lies. You go to foodlies.org.
Food Lies.
So I got the site up, and it kind of explains, there's this whole story, and there's kind of three parts. If you think chronologically, there's the distant past, where our ancestors, we should be looking to them on how to eat, because this is how we became human. I mean, most scientists think that's how our brains doubled in size over a certain period of time, and a lot of them think it's because we started eating meat and cooking meat, and that's all this. It's way more densely nutritious, and instead of all these just eating fruits and plants have so little nutrition in them, you have to sit there all day eating. That's why monkeys, chimps, they just eat all day, because they're not getting that much from them. And then the meat itself is a nutritious.
But low key, didn't those people back then die at like 40?
That's a great misconception. So I have that on the site right there. It's misconceptions, and then what we know.
Lies.
Part of it is because they had high infant mortality rate. So if you're looking at the average age someone died, and it's 35, because it's like 90% of the kids died at 1 year old.
Yeah, it's because they were living in the fucking woods.
Yeah.
Or like they got eaten by a tiger or something, you know?
Yeah,
like
got thrown off a cliff.
there's a lot of different variables back then that come into play that don't
weren't
come
that
into play
big.
in modern
There
day.
weren't that many tigers, though.
Skydiving accidents with babies.
There was bears. All right,
There
that's
was
all you
bears.
need.
Okay, back then they mostly died of infectious diseases. There's two ways to die. There's infectious diseases or chronic, like cardiovascular type diseases
so basically
that we
what-
die of today.
A caveman wasn't like, oh, my cholesterol. Oh,
Yeah,
they had
no. The caveman
amazing
wasn't like
cholesterol.
anti-vax for kids. Like vax is giving.
Vaccine. You know how there's a Jenny McCarthy death site? Have you heard of that?
Oh,
Of how
no.
many people she's killed because of her anti-vaccination stuff?
No.
I want to make a food pyramid death site.
Ooh,
How many people have died
I like
because of the government promoting eating tons of carbs on the base of the food pyramid? It's insane.
What was the cavemen's like anti-vax program? You think they were like, we can't make these fires inside the cave anymore. It's killing us.
Secondhand smoke.
Secondhand smoke. And then ads are coming out about like how fires are bad for you.
The cave drawing ads.
The cave drawing ads, like propaganda. You know this shit happen, man.
They're walking by the little trail. There's like little grave and carvings
He's
in the
angry.
rock. It's
He's
like
angry
oh,
carving. He's like fucking
shoot.
has secondhand smoke. Cave.
There's like some kid coughing in the side. It's like, oh, look what happened to little Pepe.
There's live advertisements as you walk out of your cave, and they're doing little plays,
They have to act
and the
it
kids
out.
like,
Like there's a loop. don't let this happen
This
to
child.
little don't let this happen to little Pepe.
So Brian,
Pepe, no.
Okay.
Brian, what do you think? Let me steer this ship back on course here. Brian, what do you think is the one or two most valuable pieces of information that are misconceived by the public that you're trying to get across with your film?
Okay. That's that meat and fat are actually good for you. I didn't believe this until 1 month ago after doing 2 years of research and 2 months of I didn't believe it either. But red meat is great for you. I have a guy on board, Dr. Sean Baker. He's awesome. He's going on Joe Rogan's podcast December 7th. He's a carnivore. He's 50 years old. He looks like the Incredible Hulk. He's this jacked dude. He's a medical doctor, and he's only eaten meat for 10 months. And he's got healthier. I mean, that's an extreme case. I'm not promoting that. But you can get everything you need from just meat. And he's proving that, and he's doing tests, and he's going to do 2 more months, and then finally do the full blood work and all that. He looks amazing. He's setting records. He's powerlifting, setting deadlift records.
Was this something that Atkins was on? Is that
This is basically, I guess I didn't fully explain. Basically, Atkins, low carb, paleo, no sugar, no grain, whatever you want to call it. People have all these different names for it. Primal.
Keto.
And keto is sort of a more extreme case. Keto is basically paleo, but with a higher fat ratio.
Let's come up with a new one right now.
Well, I came up with one. It's called the Sapien.
I've been telling girls for years, all you need is meat. I have meat.
What are you having for breakfast?
Well, I think here's one of the interesting things. So we have this misconception. We have these new revelations coming into diet, but there's two ends of it. Because one is a philosophical belief and a political, economic belief system.
Right.
So the philosophical belief of like why I'm not going to speak for any vegans, but what I've observed is a lot of vegans don't like to consume meat because, factory farming is horrible. And I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's too bad.
That's not the argument here. It's like, how do we accomplish this nutritional level on a responsible economic and political scale? And another big thing that's really fucked up about the industry is it is illegal for you to go and do behind the scenes sneak recording of these factory farms. Like if you go,
egg.
yeah,
The egg.
that is, if that's not an example of where money should be out of politics, I don't know what is, because
Yeah.
that doesn't do anything but
So
benefit
you
the
can't
companies.
Film those is that
If
what now?
you do, you cannot. It's not just a civil prosecution now. So like the company, the factory farm can sue you for desecrating their brand
But
or
it's
whatever.
also, like, against
It's
the
a
law.
criminal.
Random question: how much does a cow cost?
It depends on
20 grand?
it depends on where like all the logistics. Is it
Yeah.
grass fed? Is it roaming? Are you
like,
milking
20
it?
grand.
Or is it in a pen? Like
Can
is it?
can we get our own shit going?
Probably.
Like, you know?
Oh, you can order. Yeah, if we could get a bulk
Sure.
order, you get a free. Yeah, we could split it up and get some good grass-fed meat for a decent price.
What we used to
No,
do.
Oh, you're talking about a whole cow. You're talking about like a live cow.
And
Yeah,
just-
want a cow like here in the studio as a mascot?
No, we get a field, we get 2 cows, and then we just get it going.
So this is a good
going.
this is a good topic. All right, so I used to work for a distillery, St. Augustine Distillery in Florida. Shout
hold
out
on,
to them.
get-
But
hold on,
hold on,
get
this
that-
is related to cows.
get that real meat though.
That's
You
what-
want
that's what
that
it-
real-
Yeah, get that
So-
Neil meat more like.
Well, so what we used to do as a distillery was we would donate all of our grains, all of our wheat, barley, and corn after it was distilled. It had no alcohol content on it, and it couldn't be used for anything else. We would donate it to the farm for feed. And we would, for a whole year, basically give our local farmers free cow food.
Holy shit, that's saving a
And
lot
at the
of
end
money.
of the year, they would give us a cow. And they would butcher a cow, and we would get the meat for the
That's
thing.
awesome.
Y'all should have played it cool. Waited for 2 cows, and then just been, you know what I mean? Let's play it
Yeah,
cool.
we're gonna eat these cows.
Yeah,
we're totally not gonna start our own cow business over
Exactly,
here,
dude.
man.
I just think it's a more
some
conscious
milk at
way
least.
of consuming your food,
Neil's
and that's
got
I think
cow business.
you know think about it. How often do you really think about the source of your food? Like when you go to a restaurant and you're like, because I've worked in restaurants my
I just
whole life.
wouldn't want to know the cow that well. I would just
Right.
be like, you know what, cow,
I don't wanna know
get
his
out
name.
there.
I want to know him.
You
I
really
want to
wanna know
know.
his name?
I want. Yeah, because
Yo,
it's
Freddie?
But Devin, we're gonna be killing the cow. You
yeah,
get that, right?
yeah. So
Killing Freddie?
So you want to know? You want to know Freddie before we kill him?
yeah, because I want to pay respect to him and be appreciative
Hey, I
of
like
him
that.
giving his life for me.
We're eating him. Like we can
Okay,
respect
I grew up
him.
fishing. Would you say the same thing about fishing? I grew to say
I
grew up.
don't know the fish.
You want to know?
Freddy the fish,
I
man.
don't know the fish.
That's Freddy the cow's cousin, man. You can't kill it.
Well, this is, I think, one of the fundamental problems in our society is we have this separation from the food that we consume to where it ends up in our mouth. So we don't want to think about what happened to the cow. So we're going to be tolerant of factory farming
Right.
and issues like this
But I want it
because
killed
it
right,
makes.
though.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the
yeah.
thing. Well, it makes it cheap for us to go buy in the grocery store. It makes it cost effective for us to go have on a large scale at restaurants.
You know,
but that
and-
doesn't mean that it's the best way. It doesn't mean it's most conscious. And I think
Yeah.
that there's a better way to do it to feed a large number of people. But
Totally.
That's okay. That's number one point I wanted to make. So we're not going against the vegan or vegetarian community. We're on the same page as you. We don't like factory farming, but there is another way. And I talked to a great lady, Diana Rogers, who Sustainable Dish. She's an awesome voice in this. Factory farming is bad. Grass-fed animals are good, ethical treatment, and let's figure out how to do this and how
Yeah.
it's not going to hurt the environment. People are like, oh, it's like methane or all this stuff. There's a whole process that animals that put carbon back into the soil, and
Well-
it's actually better for the environment if you can do it right. And some of it's more expensive, this grass-fed meat, but there is a way to stop factory farming.
Well, and
It's-
also, I think even for me, less about the environment. I don't think that cow farts are destroying the environment at all. I can't believe that. But also,
I have heard enough cow fart can make a bomb.
Enough cow farts
can make a bomb.
That's where you need to start your business. Start off with 2 cows, and you can start collecting those farts.
Well,
Anyway,
for one second, like how much would it cost for the dude that makes the cow into meat? Does he cost?
Not that much.
Do we
The
need this?
butcher?
Do we need this?
Nah.
No, but I need the butcher that's gonna take the live guy, the live joint.
They don't cost that much. Right.
Really?
Yeah, you pay a guy $300 to do that for you, Bill.
well, they do
But,
it on a large scale. So
yeah,
anything you do
exactly.
on a large scale is going to bring your overhead down.
Well, and that's what I was. That's my concern is because factory farming it sucks for the animals for sure, and I'm really glad we're becoming conscious of that now. But I totally get it. You know, back in the day, whenever we weren't conscious of animals' feelings at all, it makes so much sense. It's a very smart business move, and I'm sure it moved our economy forward a lot. But now we do need to figure out how can we keep this much money rolling with the farms, but the cows aren't. It's not terrible. You know, it's not literal fucking torture. You know.
Easy. Stop subsidizing sugar and corn.
There you
That's
go.
what I was going to say.
And,
And soy.
and get on the politics and
There's
start
a way
making
to
a healthy way to
do
do
it.
this.
The way we're doing it is so wrong. Yeah, the government subsidizing soy and corn, all this. You're doing monocropping. We're having the land isn't meant to be, grow
Right.
100 miles of corn in one place. It's supposed to be
GMOs, baby.
Yeah, and we're using tons of pesticides, and also we're killing tons of animals. People, all these vegans, like, oh, you should just eat, fruits and vegetables only. Well, the way we're doing it now, you're killing tons of animals by harvesting crops. You're by getting lettuce. You're killing tons of rabbits and baby deer and all kinds of small animals that are just there that get
Where
chopped
there could
up.
be the cows could be just chilling and eating that shit on their own. Ecosystem could be formed rather than you just destroying.
Yes, you could have
right?
you could have this farmland be used for multi-purpose, have cows, have all the different things grown in different areas, and there's rotational grazing, there's aquaponics, there's tons of ways to do things really sustainably and naturally.
Also, back what you were saying, it wasn't that I was not caring about the cow by not wanting to know it. You know,
You heartless motherfucker.
Heartless bastard.
I definitely care
How
about.
dare
I definitely
you.
care about the cows. Just I have feelings, man. I have feelings.
You don't want to look them in the eye while you're
No,
gonna cut the
I'm-
throat.
It's gonna hurt me if I know little Freddy. and
But
he
wouldn't
get
that
killed.
make you more conscious about, more appreciative
no,
of
no,
like
no, no,
if
no,
you
no.
had to pull the trigger yourself
no,
kind of thing?
No. Freddy come out the stable. I'm like, yo, Freddy, thanks, dude. I give him a hug over him, and then that's it.
You know, Neil, I don't like to know my victims either.
Well,
Yeah, you serial
I'm
killer.
respectful to Freddy, but at the same time, like I have a heart. I can't see Freddy get chopped up.
Neil.
Well, here's one thing that I want to say before we kind of wrap this up is, you know, we were talking about consciousness, and we don't like the fact that we, you know, treat animals this inhumane way, in this bad way. Well, science has now proved that living cellular organisms such as vegetables and fungi have consciousness too. So a little side fact is if you have a tree, two trees in a forest, underneath the soil is mycelium. Mycelium is the fungus, basically, the living organism that causes mushrooms. And that is in 30% of all the soil mass in the entire world.
Yeah.
So we're walking on mushrooms whenever we walk in normal, healthy soils. So but here's the unique thing about the relationship between trees and mycelium is when one tree wants to exchange nutrients with another tree, they use mycelium as a network. So the mycelium will act as like the internet. And, you know, a tree will be like, yo, I need some potassium. Let me get some potassium over here. I'll trade you for some zinc.
Or some sex potassium. Craigslist for trees.
Sextasium.
Tree Craigslist.
But the unique thing that they've studied is it's not just an open call of saying, anyone out there got potassium, let me get some potassium. It's like a tree will make a conscious choice to
He's got a
trade
dude.
potassium with that tree.
He has a guy.
That's
I got
what.
a guy.
Well, it's boiling it down, and based on the I'm not a mycologist. I'm not a scientist, but I know that listening to the people who are, they've described it as saying a tree makes a conscious choice to exchange nutrients with another tree via the medium of a mycelium.
That's pretty fascinating.
So the tree is it's still conscious itself. So it's not like if we're going to hold a standard to a living organism, like where do you draw that
Where do you
line?
draw the line? That's why I can't be a vegetarian and all that, because I would go too far down the fucking rabbit hole. At some point, I would care about like how grass feels. You know, it's like I can't do it. I can't.
Well,
do it.
I don't care about grass.
Well, they've
I
put,
don't
let me
care.
tell you this, they've put electrodes up to a tree, like an EKG meter, and they'll take an axe and throw it into the side of the tree. Nothing will happen until like 12 hours later, there'll be a spike. So relative to a tree, its time period of passage is longer than ours, and it's that the reaction is delayed. But to say that reaction doesn't exist is I think ignorant. So I think that for that argument of like, oh well, we want to treat, you know, animals humanely, yes, but at the same time, like you said, you know, what's this? Is there the only difference in my eyes between a mammal and a tree is the relative nature of their time passage.
Right.
Like our lifetime is X amount of years long, but there's trees and there's fungus out there that have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Dude, like some OG
Fucking
fungus.
fungus living longer than us. And shit.
Yeah, the largest
hell yeah.
living organism
Hey,
on
they
the
just-
planet is a one piece of fungus underneath the soil of Oregon. That's I want to say it's like half the size of the state.
It's big. Yeah, I don't remember
What?
the size either. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
It's
The-
all
the
one
piece of fungus
living
is half
organism.
the size
There's
of
a
the state.
fungus among us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And we are closer to fungus and mycelium on a cellular level than we are closer to any other ancient form of cellular development, like trees or grass or anything like that. Like I think that, fungus is one of those things that is a very incorporated part of our ecosystem. And if you look at anything that Paul Stamets has done, shout out to Paul Stamets. He's a brilliant mycologist where I learned a lot of this stuff. And I'm sure I'm misquoting him on a lot of the facts, but that's why I say go out and do your research and talk to an expert, which I am not. But on a big picture, these things are easy to wrap our heads around.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No factory farming. Let's do
Right.
things consciously and responsible. Let's focus on what our body needs, our diet needs, and let's figure out a way to integrate politics and economics into that to benefit us as a society versus right now it's structured to benefit corporations
Right.
and it's structured to benefit, the hands of the
Monsanto.
few.
Yeah, and then,
Yes.
and at the end of the day, one of the biggest lessons is don't tell Neil the name of that cow.
No, I don't want to know it.
Daisy.
Daisy, no.
Yeah. So that kind of.
But I did care. I do care if grass turns brown and shit. We should be watering. We should be watering the grass.
You can make your own film about that. Dude.
Well, I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah, we got sidetracked.
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
fine. That's a great message. That's kind of our ending message. But what I want to say, well, what's also interesting is about the two groups. It's like a war between the vegans against the paleo people. But I don't want it to be a war. But I think it's just bad that the paleo community thinks with science and logic, and the vegan community thinks with their emotions, and that's kind of the problem. And they're never gonna agree. But you know what I mean? I understand it. They don't want to harm animals, but you're not looking at the science that we know.
Right. Yeah. I have a friend who's a vegetarian because he literally just can't, it's gross to him. It just grosses him the fuck out to think that there's flesh
animal
in his mouth.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, and but
Or that's great. I'm not saying you can't do that, but but it's harder to get the correct nutrition if you're eating that way.
Yeah.
A lot of these vegans are lacking a lot of protein and different vitamins that you can only get from meat.
Eat a sandwich, people. You die.
Well, when you're lacking in nutrients and vitamins, you got to think your brain function is going to change.
Sure.
There's going to be different gut bacteria. There's going to be different hormones that are secreted. Your neurons are going to fire differently because the fuel that you're putting in your body is different, and it's not necessarily what your body was designed or evolved to run
That's
off
another
of.
big point. I wanted to make. You asked me the big points. Your body can burn fat or sugar. Oh, we're highly adaptive, and it's really impressive what we can do. And you could survive on eating tree bark for 2 months. People have done crazy things, but what's optimum for your body and your brain is to run off of fat. And that's what people have been living off of for most of time. 99% of human history, we've run off of animal fat and meat as our fuel.
That's interesting.
And we can burn sugar, yes, but it's not ideal. So people in the vegan or vegetarian community, they're like, oh yeah, well I'm so healthy because once I went vegan. I'm like, yeah, because you're eating cheeseburgers and all this gross fast food, and then now you're eating grains and fruit. Of course you're gonna feel better.
You lost weight.
Yeah. And yes, you can do well if you're only eating, really healthy, natural foods. I think that's awesome. But the ideal way is if you're eating those natural foods, just not the carbs, and then eating the meat.
Right.
So the ideal diet, I just call it the sapien diet. This is what humans were meant to eat. Is basically vegetarian, but instead of carbs, eat meat. If you want to think of it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically just eat meat, fish, chicken, vegetables, nuts. Yeah. I mean, it's not that
Neil's
hard.
been trying to tell girls that nuts are good for them too.
It's also not that hard to figure out.
Consistently, actually.
It's also
on a
a meat and nut diet, baby. That's
it's
what
not
you
hard
need
to
be
stick
on.
to. It's not hard to stick to either. All these people talking about, oh, I'm going on this diet, or I'm going to go, it's so hard to stick to. The best diet is something that you can stick to, first of all, because if it's got to be a lifestyle, and it's very easy to stick to eating a steak and some vegetables. That's delicious.
No, for sure. I'm addicted to meat. Like if I haven't had a steak in like 3 or 4 days, I get like shaky. I'm like, I need some
But
meat.
people think it's bad. I used to think it's like, oh yeah, that Atkins thing, that sounds great, but oh yeah, your arteries are gonna be clogged and you're gonna be a mess. That's not true. It's the opposite. It's just bad. It's almost propaganda. It's just misinformation. There's a book, Nina Tetchells wrote a book called The Big Fat Surprise. I read it. It's awesome. And she's awesome. She agrees to be in the movie. I talked to her forever on the phone the other day. And she spent 10 years of her own time not getting paid, even to researching this and how all these bad studies happen. There's bad science. There's Ansel Keys, the 7-country studies. There's all these things where people went wrong in the science, which led us to the food pyramid. It's why people think, oh, whole grain, like this is all you need. Whole grains aren't even that great for you. Your body still sees them as sugar.
Right.
Like it's just, there's a glycemic load. And yes, it gets scientific, but your body has to regulate your blood sugar. It secretes insulin, and when it sees any kind of carb or sugar, it rises, and then that insulin secretion causes you to be fat, basically.
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think one of the things is science gets it wrong, but also if you went and cracked open whatever was happening at that time where they came to that conclusion of whatever this was, grains are this, blah, 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 I'm sure there was a whole lot of money being handed around to make decisions. You know what I mean? I'm sure people were paying for those.
Whole lot.
Those results were bought and paid for them.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
I think it starts with education and then it goes to economics and politics.
Right.
And that goes with any industry. It happened with prohibition in the alcohol industry, it happened with prohibition in the marijuana industry. So to wrap us all up, I really think that educating people with this type of film and by providing accurate information that's up-to-date science is the most beneficial thing that will change not only the culture, but from, politics and economics follow culture. Like if you notice, like if there's a cultural thing and a belief system, then the politics will marry that belief system because they want to get elected. Right. So if the large consensus is, oh, now we need to stop subsidizing all these corn and soy and sugar, companies and start focusing on healthy, non-factory farm foods, it'll shift to that. Now, a lot of people are going to fight that shift who are, economic strongholds in it. They're going to use money in politics.
Sure,
and
lobbyists.
It's going to be a fight.
Lobbyists.
But at the end of the day, you can't fight truth and truth and information.
Right.
Like that's what the benefit of the internet has done. And I think that's one of the things that's gonna, that'll turn us around, man. And I really think what you're doing is important. I think it's, fun. And I also think, it's exciting because this is all shit that is contradictory to what we've been taught over the years.
Well, and I know that it's true. You could call it anecdotal, but Devin has lost weight doing this. We know Carl, who what did he lose, like 80 pounds?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea he used to be that big. He's shredded now. And he's just caveman diet. That's all you need to do. I've done it. I've never been in better shape in my life. It's so easy, and I eat as much as I want.
My dick grew 8 inches.
Oh yeah,
When I started this.
Well, each person's
I
physiological.
need a link to this caveman.
Yeah. So each person's body is different. Everyone should get the system that works best for them. Like I know that I have a slow metabolism, so I had to work out a lot and do a lot of cardio to burn some of the fats that were, I was putting in. But, so everybody's metabolism is different. And that's why, we're not doctors. We're pointing you in the direction of doctors and of scientists. So
I'm a doctor.
But, I want to wrap this up here, man. Like, any last thoughts from you guys?
No, not that.
Foodlies.org.
I'm really considering about the whole cow thing. I would like to maybe have my own little crew.
Yeah, Neil needs a cow crew.
I'm down. I grew up with cows. One of the best things about cows is they produce cow patties, and what grows from cow patties?
Mushrooms.
Yes,
There's
I
a
do.
fungus among us.
I think we need a commune. We should just have a hippie commune of just all of us, and we'll just get a couple cows.
Now this podcast will
But
become.
just don't. Let's
very
just not
interesting.
name them.
Okay.
Just
That
don't give a name.
We'll put a brand and a number on
Yeah,
them.
Like, that's the
cow.
big. That's the big cow. That's the bigger cow. That's the small cow.
Neil is gonna get way stoned one night and go hang out with those cows for way too long, and we're never gonna be able to butcher these cows. It's just gonna be milk cows for the rest of forever.
Yeah, well.
It's all good. I can live off of fish and veggies all day.
All right.
All right. Anyways, let's sign out. Brian, tell us where everyone can find your project and social media.
Foodlies.org. And just search, Twitter, whatever, Instagram. I'm there.
Awesome. James, where can everybody find you?
At my house. No, I'm just kidding. Twitter at James Wyatt Scott. Coming at you with the news.
Thank you, our news anchor over here, Neil the Great.
Neil the Groot.
Yo, Instagram, IG, at the life of Neil the Great. You know what it is. Come on, fellas.
Oh, I already know.
Word up. And I am Devin Mueller, Instagram sailor_dev. And you can email the show at skitbagsradio@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at skitbagsradio. If you want to give us a shout out, you want to ask a question, you want to have a topic you want to discuss, show us some love. All right. And on that note, I think we're out. Thanks a lot, fellas. That was awesome.
Thanks, Dub.
And we're out.
Brothers.
Peace.
Cheerio.
Skitbags Radio.